Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. Jai Om Vishwapat Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Statarashata Shri Shrima Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Sadhu, Haribo.
Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Cheva Narottamam Deving Sarasating Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Text 25. Matopyanantat parata parasmat. Matopyanantat parata parasmat. Svarga pavargadipatirna kinchit. Svarga pavargadipatirna kinchit. Yesham kimusyaditarena tesham. Yesham kimusyaditarena tesham. Akinchananam mai bhakti bhajam. Akinchananam mai bhakti bhajam. Matopyanantat parata parasmat. Svarga pavargadipatirna kinchit. Yesham kimusyaditarena tesham. Akinchananam mai bhakti bhajam. Please chant. Touches. Kinchananam mai bhakti bhajam. Mataha, from me. Api, even. Anantat, unlimited in strength and opulence. Parata parasmat, higher than the highest. Svarga pavargadipate, able to bestow happiness, obtainable by living in the heavenly kingdom, by liberation, or by enjoyment of material comfort, and then liberation. Na, not. Kinchit, anything. Yesham, of whom. Kim, what need. U, oh. Syat, can there be. Ittarena, with any other. Tesham, of them. Akinchananam, without needs or without possessions. Mai, unto me. Bhakti bhajam, executing devotional service. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. I am fully opulent, almighty and superior to Lord Brahma and Indra, the king of the heavenly planets. I am also the bestower of all happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdom and by liberation. Nonetheless, the Brahmanas do not seek material comforts from me. They are very pure and do not want to possess anything. They simply engage in my devotional service. What is the need of their asking for material benefits from anyone else? Purport. The perfect Brahminical qualification is stated herein. Akinchananam mai bhakti bhajam. The Brahmanas are always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Consequently, they have no material wants, nor do they possess material things. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 11.8, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains the position of pure Vaishnavas, who are anxious to return home back to Godhead. Nishkinchanasya bhagavat bhajon Nishkinchanasya bhagavat bhajonun mukasya. Those who actually want to return back to Godhead are nishkinchana. That is, they have no desire for material comfort. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises, Sandarshanam Vishainam Attayoshitam Chaha Hanta Hanta Vishabhakshanato Pesadu. Material opulence and sense gratification through the association of women are more dangerous than poison. Brahmanas, who are pure Vaishnavas, always engage in the Lord's service and are devoid of any desire for material gain. The Brahmanas do not worship demigods like Lord Brahma, Indra, or Lord Shiva for any material comfort. They do not even ask the Supreme Lord for material profit. Therefore, it is concluded that the Brahmanas are the supreme living entities of this world. Sri Kapiladev also confirms this in Srimad Bhagavatam. Tasman mai arpita shesha kriyartatma nirantaraha mai arpitatmana pungso mai sanyasta karmanaha na pashyami parang bhutam akartu samadarshanat. The Brahmanas are always dedicated to the Lord's service with their bodies, words and mind. There is no better person than a Brahmana who thus engages himself and dedicates himself to the Supreme Lord. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Swayang Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitang Tvang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhupevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatade Shatarini Matopyanantat Parata Parasmat Svargapa Vargadi Paterna Kinchit Yesham Kimusyaditarena Tesham Akinchananam Mai Bhakti Bhajam. I am fully opulent, almighty and superior to Lord Brahma and Indra, the king of the heavenly planets. I am also the bestower of all happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdom and by liberation. Nonetheless, the Brahmanas do not seek material comforts from me. They are very pure and do not want to possess anything. They simply engage in my devotional service. What is the need of their asking for material benefits from anyone else? Hare Krishna, thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class. We were singing the Damodar Ashtakam in the Damodar Mass, Kartik, for 1 full month. And in this Damodar Ashtakam there is one verse, Varang Deva Mokshang na Mokshavadingva na Chanyang Vrinehang Vareshadapiha Idang Teva Purna Tagopala Balam Sadame Manasya Virastam Kim Anyai. O Lord, though you can award all kinds of benedictions, I pray to you neither for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor for the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor for any other such boon. O Lord, I simply wish that this form of yours as Bal Gopal in Vrindavan may ever be manifest in my heart, for what use do I have for any other boon besides that? So, why do we sing this song? Because we are aspiring for that platform which is also described here. The platform of being a Brahmana means to not have any kind of material desire, akinchananam. The only desire is to serve the Lord. And the reason we sing this, or we sang that song, or we sing it every year, is to meditate about what we actually try to achieve by our practice. For us this seems quite utopian to reach such a stage, because in our world we don't see such people. No. What to speak of being free of the desire of liberation or the heavenly kingdom? Can we find anyone who is free from the desire from sinful activities? Mostly people in this world nowadays, they are addicted to sinful activities. They have a desire to perform sinful activities. So what to speak of finding persons who are free from all kinds of material desires? But it's said here that the devotee is even free from the desire for liberation. What is liberation for us? That's something probably we need to also reflect on. We don't really have this kind of understanding that we should, from our upbringing, that liberation is something we should aspire for. But I think especially persons who become older, who struggle with the material body more, when we are young, then everything seems to be fine. Our body works, we look kind of pretty, beautiful, handsome, we are fresh. So, and we have a lot of freedom when we are young. The material illusion, Maya, is giving us this impression that we have a lot of freedom. But somebody who's getting older, we can see that we are very much entrapped in our body and in our environment. So liberation is a very high platform where we can leave this material body, no pain, no suffering. We are completely free from that. But bhakti, the platform of bhakti, devotional service to the Lord, it's even beyond that. And even a devotee who has the chance to attain liberation, he or she will not ask for it. So even though in this world we don't see many such examples, actually most of the living entities in this creation, they are like that. Unfortunately, we cannot see them, or we don't have the association of them often. In our ISKCON we have many exalted devotees we come across, and we can see they are on the platform. But mostly, many of the pure devotees, they are not in our vision, because they are in the transcendental realm. In Vrindavan, on actually the last day of Parikrama, one Maharaj, he told a very beautiful pastime I would like to just share with you today, which is bringing out the point of a devotee who is... Maharaj. Which Maharaj? Bhakti Ashraya Vaishnava Swami Maharaj. He spoke in Hindi, it was translated, and so I don't know if I got all the points correct of this pastime, and if I say something wrong, I beg for forgiveness, because I don't want to speculate, and I also don't know, in fact, where he got all these details from. I was trying to find out, but I couldn't. Maybe I can one day find out and tell you. This is a pastime you all know, but I have never heard that pastime so detailed. While Krishna was living in Gokula, Gokula is on the eastern side of the Yamuna. You know, there is a Yamuna going kind of from north to south, and then on the eastern side there is the place Gokula, where Krishna used to live as a small boy. And on the western side is Mathura. We know how Vasudeva, when Krishna was just born, he had to cross the Yamuna to go to Gokula and leave Krishna there. And while Krishna was a small boy, a really small toddler boy, there was one woman in Mathura. She was a widow, means she lost her husband, and she was also a childless woman. She never had a child, and in fact she lost the child when she was younger. She had a miscarriage, and she, even though she was a widow, she was alone, but still she had to maintain herself, and she needed to eat. So for that purpose she used to sell fruits, and by selling fruits she would get some income. And with that she would buy some grains, some rice, and in this way she would maintain herself. But living in Mathura during that time, we know who was living in Mathura also? Kamsa. And with Kamsa, so many of the demons. So the life in Mathura was very troublesome because of all these demons, and of course when demons come somewhere, or if people who have a demonic mentality, we can also see in this world nowadays, then life becomes very uncomfortable. There is a lot of noise, there is a lot of pollution, there is a lot of harassment, violence. We see it in our world. And so in that time when Kamsa was in Mathura and all his demonic friends were living, life was very uncomfortable. So this woman, she was thinking, I could go somewhere else and sell fruits instead of doing that here in Mathura. Let me go somewhere else. And she heard by word of mouth that there is some very handsome boy. His name is Krishna in Gokula. And naturally she, I guess for this you need a kind of a female body to probably appreciate that more, because she never had a child, and mostly women, they have a strong desire to have a child in their life. Her whole life was kind of, that thought was in her mind. So when she heard about Krishna, that small boy, she became curious to see him. So she thought, let me go to Gokula and try to sell fruits there, and at the same time I might see that small boy Krishna. So that time there was no bridge. No, nowadays there's many bridges going over and also boats. But that time there was no bridge, there was boats, but this woman was so poor she couldn't afford going with the boat. But I don't know if you know, there are some places in the Yamuna where you can actually cross by walking. Even this time, when we were in Brahmanda Ghat, which is also in Gokul, we went for a swim, and I got this desire to cross the Yamuna by swimming. And I asked a small boy if he will come with me, some Gurukuli. And so we swam, and I thought, wow, I have to really... And at one point when I was in the middle of the Yamuna, I thought, let me just see how deep it is. And I was like standing. I was like, no need to swim. You can just walk through. But of course there was a few meters where you had to swim. But then there is some places in the Yamuna where you can walk. So she took her basket of fruits and she walked across the Yamuna. And her sari, she wouldn't have a bathing suit with her. She just had a sari and it was wet. And when she came out on the other side, the first thing she saw was this place is full of trees, fruit trees, and not only fruit trees, but somehow all kind of fruit trees from different seasons all these trees have full ripened fruits, and not only a few but many, and all the branches they just hang down. And she thought, and she looked at her fruits and she looked at these fruits, and she thought, what I'm gonna do here? No, they have such an opulence in Gokul. But she thought, let me at least try, since I came here. So she was walking around, yelling, fal, fal, fruit, fruit. But nobody came out. And at some point, she did that for many hours, and at some point she was thinking, I think these people here in Gokul, because they're cow herds, they don't eat any fruit, they only eat cow milk products. So she had this doubt, but she thought, let me try, and maybe at least at some point I will see this young boy. And this, if I remember correctly, went on the first day. She couldn't sell any fruit. She also didn't meet Krishna. So she just took some rest in some place. Then the next day again, she walked around, she tried, she couldn't sell any fruit. And then she took rest again, and on the third day she thought, okay, let me try one more day, and if I don't manage, then just let me give up this useless life, because anyway, I don't have any relatives, and if I cannot see this small boy also, who they describe as being so beautiful, let me just jump into the Jamuna and drown myself. So the whole day again she was walking around, yelling, Fal, Fal, please come, buy fruit. But nobody came. And at some point she sat down in front of what is called Nanda Bhavan. Who has been to Nanda Bhavan? This time you went? Last year. Nanda Bhavan is an amazing place if you go to Vrindavan. It's this original place which was standing there 5,000 years ago. You want to go to Vrindavan, so take note. Nanda means the Nanda Maharaj, the father of Krishna. And Bhavan is like a hall. And this hall was built by Vishwakarma, the architect from the heavenly planets. And you can go there and you can see this place. And it's amazing, these pillars. This time, when I went, I embraced these pillars, I touched them, and they were so amazing, they were so warm and just transcendental. So we can meditate that Krishna, 5,000 years ago, he must have been running around there, touching these pillars. So this Falvali, this fruit vendor, she sat down in front of that, and she was, yelling Fal, Fal, and she thought, okay, let me just sit down here, and if somebody comes, somebody will come. I will not move anymore. So she was old woman, she couldn't see properly, she was sitting there, and at some point she could just hear a voice yelling, give me fruit, give me fruit. And the moment that voice entered her ear, it felt like nectar pouring into her ear in form of sound vibration. It's such a sweet voice. And she could immediately figure that this must be a small child. So she turned and she saw in front of her there's a small boy, completely naked. He just had in India, they still now, you see, we also saw in Braj many times, they just have a small koti, they call it. It's a metal. Oh,
you mean like the belly belt?
Yeah, this metal belly belt.
Yeah.
So you see, children, they often naked in India. It's warm, and they're children, but they have some. I think it described Krishna had some golden. It's called koti.
No, koti is something different. They don't wear underwears, but they wear like very small, like a thin, and small boys are running.
Kopin, you mean?
Yeah, but in Hindi they say koti also.
Okay.
Kopin.
No, he didn't have that. Also, he was naked, but he had this chain. Yeah.
Kamarband. Kamarband. Kamar is waist.
Mm-hmm.
Band is like a.
Okay.
Like a
Yeah.
lucky.
That must be. So when she saw that boy, she was immediately mesmerized. Not only is he, just to see him. So this boy came walking from this Nanda Bhavan, and he came walking to her, and he was looking very greedily in the fruit basket, and he said, give me fruit, give me fruit. So this Falvali, she couldn't say anything, she just stood there looking at this child, and he was saying, give me fruit. She couldn't say anything, and in her mind she was just thinking, who is this boy? How beautiful is this boy? At some point she thought, if I'm going to give him fruit now, he will walk away and I won't see him anymore. So let me think of something to prolong that moment of being in front of him. So she thought, if I tell him, naturally also she told him, actually I'm selling these fruits. You need to give me something. And Krishna was looking at her because he was a small boy, and in Gokul, they are village people, they don't, he didn't see that so much, this kind of business exchange. So he looked at her, buy? You know, what do you mean to buy? So she told him, you have to give me something in exchange. Then I will give you fruit. And she told him, you go inside and you check, there must be some grain, some rice. Your parents, they must have some grain. So you take some grain and you bring it back. So Krishna was kind of confused. He went back. And she thought, in this way he will have to come again. I will see him again. So she was observing Krishna, how he ran back into the house naked. And he went inside, so he actually knew where is the grains. He was, it's Krishna, he's smart. So he went, and he had such a small hand that he grabbed one hand of grains, and he came out of the house and he started to run towards her, and she was observing him, how he was holding that grain, but while he was running, all of the grains, they fell out of his hand. And when he came, he said, here, I brought you some grains, and basically there was just a few of these grains inside of the hand. So he also realized that actually this is useless. He didn't really bring anything. So this Falvali told Krishna, don't worry. You don't have to bring any grains, but you just sit on my lap one time and you call me Maya. That was her desire. That she always wanted a son, and now she saw Krishna, the most beautiful child. So she had this desire that he just one time sit on her lap, because she never had a child sitting on her lap, and calling her Maya. Maya means mother. So Krishna became very embarrassed, because he thought, if somebody will see me sitting on the lap of a stranger, then all my friends, they will make jokes of me, and my mother Yashoda, she will also chastise me. So he was looking around with fearful eyes if anyone can see him, and he quickly jumped on her lap. And he said, Maya, please give me some phal. And of course, she just melted away. So Krishna got up, and this Falvali, she now had to give him fruit. But she was so absorbed in looking at him that she didn't even look at the fruit. She was just looking in her face and giving, one fruit after the other. And she thought, how much fruit can I give him? But Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He could somehow hold all of the fruits. And she emptied the whole fruit basket. And then Krishna, he ran back and went inside. And this Mataji, she just stood there for a long, long time, and she didn't move. And she was just absorbed in this darshan she just got of this small boy, Krishna. So she thought at some point she came kind of back to consciousness, external consciousness, and she thought, okay, let me go back. And she didn't even look, but she took that basket and put it on her head and started to walk back to the Yamuna. And at some point she realized this basket is really heavy. And she thought, why is this basket so heavy? So she looked, it was full of precious stones, diamonds. So she came to the Yamuna, and of course she was surprised to see these precious stones, but she also, because she was so absorbed and in ecstasy by having had this darshan and even touching that small boy, that she just noticed that, but she didn't think much of it. And she came to the Yamuna, and she had to cross the river again, and she thought, oh my God, this basket is so heavy. These stones are so heavy. And she thought, what's the use of these stones anyway? And she just threw the whole basket of stones in the Yamuna. Because she thought, what, in comparison to this small boy, what's the use of these stones? So she walked past the Yamuna. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Mai Ki Jai, Shishikonitai Ki Jai. She crossed the Jamuna and she came to her small hut in Mathura. And when she wanted to open the door, it was hard for her to open. She could sense that something is inside. So with great difficulty she managed to open the door, and when she opened the door, the whole hut was full of grains. And there was no space anymore in the hut to do anything, to lay down. It was just full of grains. So she thought, oh my God, what am I going to do now? How did that grain come? And all the time she was just thinking about that boy. So she thought, let me just give these grains to the neighbors in donations. She started to just give them away. And all the neighbors came. But the problem was, she would give out grain, but the grain wouldn't become less. It would always stay the same. So she became frustrated at some point and thought, oh, I'm not going to go anywhere here. So she thought, what's the use of these grains anyway? What's the use of my home anyway? And she just gave this hut to someone and she left. And she went back to Gokul, and she was just, the only desire she had was to stay in Gokul, and simply by hearing the gopis speaking about little Krishna, what he was doing, what's going on, she was always fully satisfied. So that is this verse. I was thinking that this is exactly that verse we sang in Damodar Ashtakam. Idang teva purnata gopala balang sadame manasya virastam kimannai. That if somebody is fortunate enough to get the darshan of Krishna, and we see so many times with Dhruva Maharaj also, no, he had such a strong material desire for kingdom, for power, but once he saw the Lord, everything gone. Everything was so worthless. And the same was with this fruit vendor, this Falbali, who got the darshan, and she didn't have any desire for grains or for for wealth. She threw away all these precious stones. She just wanted to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And that's just one of the many examples of pure devotees, who developed ecstatic love for the love. And by this, everything else becomes meaningless. And that's what we try to cultivate. In India, I was studying Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu again, and Rupa Goswami, he gives the definition of sadhana bhakti. Now we are practicing sadhana bhakti. And in this verse, he says, Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana vida nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakritam ridi sadhyata. That sadhana bhakti, the purpose of sadhana bhakti means to engage ourselves. Kriti, we engage, we perform activities. For what purpose? To develop bhav, to develop love for the Lord. And this love, even though it looks so, when we hear these pastimes, these stories, or we hear here this verse, it sounds so far away, but he says in the same verse, Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasya, that this is actually our eternal nature. We have it already inside of us. But sadhana is just prakrityam ridi sadhyata. It's just bringing it out in the heart. So whatever we do in our sadhana, it's meant to bring out that love for Krishna. It's already there, but now it's covered. And it's described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The reason why he points that out is you could think that sadhana will bring something from outside, that we will acquire something. But sadhana means we just revive our Krishna consciousness. It's already there. And since it's Ekadashi today, I wanted to just briefly mention about the importance of Ekadashi in sadhana bhakti especially. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, he establishes the practice of sadhana bhakti. And how many, do you remember how many items of practice in sadhana bhakti he describes? How many different activities? 9? 64, yes. 64. And these 64, they are grouped also. And he begins by the most important ones, which are, there's 3 most important items. No. Yes, Guru Padashraya, accepting a spiritual master, is the first one.
Becoming initiated by the spiritual master.
Yes, becoming initiated, that's Shri Krishna, Diksha, Shikshadi, second one, and the third one.
Following the orders of the spiritual master.
Yes, Vishrambena Guru Seva. To serve the Guru with faith. So we see all of them are connected with Guru and they are the most important. But he describes 20 items which are called, he calls them the Dvara, the door of Bhakti. So like I'm now in the room of material sense gratification. And now I want to go to the room of Bhakti. I first have to go through the door of Bhakti. I'm now in the temple room, I want to go to the Prasadam room, so I first have to go through the door which leads to the Prasadam room. Logical. And these first 20 items, they are called the door of Bhakti, meaning without them, you are actually not even entering Bhakti, you are outside. And these 3 are the most important. But, interestingly, following Ekadashi is also one of the first 20. It's, I think, the 10th. I forgot the Sanskrit. I was, we walked so much, on the parikrama that sometimes I didn't want to chant, so I started to memorize some shlokas, and that's one thing I tried to memorize. It's Hari Vaso something. So meaning to observe the days of Hari. And Ekadashi is one of those days. So we see also by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came to establish pure devotional service, he himself, when he was a small boy, what did he do? He instructed his mother to follow Ekadashi. You know that, no? So he saw his mother was not following Ekadashi, she was eating grains, and he told her, Mata, you should, he was speaking the glories of Ekadashi to her, and she understood, I should follow that. And why? Because he gave the example that we should follow Ekadashi, and Rupa Goswami, as the follower of Mahaprabhu, he then established that this is a very important aspect of us cultivating bhakti, or going through the door of bhakti. And I want to just to end with read to you the verse which Rupa Goswami quotes in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, so that we can also understand what is Ekadashi, what is happening, what we are supposed to do. Probably I'm not going to find it now. Okay, let me just try to find it in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu itself. One second, I just have it. Yeah, now. This is a verse from Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Sarva Papa Prashamanam Punyam Atyantikam Tata Govinda Smaranam Nenam Ekadashyam Uposhanam. By fasting on Ekadashi, a person destroys all sins, gains abundant pious credits, and attains remembrance of the Lord. We need to purify ourselves in order to come back to this natural position, Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasya. And Ekadashi is helping us, it's an arrangement by the Lord, that those who follow, they become free from sins. They gain abundant pious credits, but the most important is Govinda Smaranam Nenam, remembrance of Govinda comes. Of course, for that we also have to do something. And Prabhupada explained, Ekadashi means not to just fast and sleep all day, but to hear and chant about the Lord. And in ISKCON we have a very nice Ekadashi observance, because usually on Ekadashi we have a bigger feast than on other days. But actually that's not the idea. And I'm reminding myself here, Ekadashi means we minimize our bodily demands. We eat less, we sleep less, and we engage more in hearing and chanting. And it's said here that's the way how we can purify ourselves and come to that platform we spoke about previously, where we're gonna develop pure love for the Lord and be completely free from all other desires. So I hope you will have a nice Ekadashi today, and one thing which we see is very helpful is if we plan our Ekadashi. Because if you wake up in the morning and at Mangalarati you hear today's Ekadashi, usually it's going to be a little difficult to tell your mind that today I'm going to fast. So what is advised that at least the day before, you start to tune your mind that tomorrow I'm going to fast and I'm going to do this. And then it becomes more easy. And we can have a calendar in our phone and remind ourselves that, oh, now Ekadashi is coming, and then we can do that. So thank you for your attention. Ekadashi Mahotsava ki Jai. If there is any short question, then speak now. You have 10 seconds. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Because you mentioned the point about like the sadhana you need to cultivate of God.
Yes.
And I was thinking often sadhana is not out of fear or out of duty. So.
Yeah. So there is a different description in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The verse I quoted was what we try to achieve by practicing sadhana. But then he also describes, you're right, what is the motivation. And there's two kinds of sadhana. One is, the motivation is scriptural injunctions. So the scriptures, they tell us you are a living entity in the material world, you suffer, all these things. And by hearing that, it's kind of a fearful thing, we don't want to suffer. We dutifully start to practice sadhana. So that what you're saying is the description of what causes one to practice sadhana. And I quoted what is the goal of sadhana. And then the other sadhana is raga, nuga sadhana. That comes when somebody naturally has an attraction to the Lord. Mostly we are not there on that stage. But just to give you one example, I was listening to Indradumna Maharaj the other day, and he spoke about one princess or queen in Kashmir, who, just a small example of what Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti means. She had one maidservant, and one time she was bored, this queen, and she told the maidservant, and that's a story which just happened like 300-400 years ago. And she told the maidservant, please, I'm bored, tell me some story. And that maidservant was a devotee of Krishna. So she told her the story of Krishna collecting the taxes from the gopis. You know, famous story. And that queen got so enchanted by Krishna that she asked her, where is that place? Where Dangati? Where is that place Dangati? So she said it's in Vrindavan. And to make it short, the queen in a night, she just ran out of the house to Vrindavan, and she asked the sadhus when she reached Vrindavan, where is Dangati? And they could sense that this is something a little strange, so they asked her who she is, and so they showed her the place. And this queen remained there her whole life. I think it was, maybe I'm mixing because he told two stories. In any case, that is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. She was not probably on the prema stage, but she heard about Krishna, and just by hearing about him, she immediately developed this desire to serve him. And then she started to practice. And of course the sadhana there is a little different. I think what she was doing, she was just brooming. That was her. And she was chanting also, but raga means the practice becomes more spontaneous. And Rupa Goswami, he says, either you start by scriptural injunctions or by rag. And often, I think most of us, we got a book by Srila Prabhupada, or we met a devotee, and we heard about it, and then through intellect, we start to practice. So one is by intellect, you decide, I'm going to be a devotee now, or try to be, and the other is by some kind of love. Rag means love. So, is it okay? Or you still have a question?
Yeah, just because the Guru Maharaj actually has this book about, he was mentioning this, and he said that like sadhana, when you practice sadhana, actually we have to have that thought that this will cultivate love for Krishna. And to be conscious that we're not doing it out of just fear or
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's... But now, if you look at us, we have to remind ourselves now about this, that mostly we don't really understand what love is, but we remind ourselves. And that's why I also quoted that verse, because the verse I just quoted one more time. It says, Kritis sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana bida. Kriti sadhya, meaning by our practice of sadhana bhakti, we cultivate bhava. And bhava is love. It's just not pure love, but it's ecstatic love. And nitasiddhasya bhavasya prakritam ridis sadhyata, that by this sadhana we awaken the love which is always there, but now it's covered. And he's mentioning that, and Prabhupada, of course, it's in his book, because we need to know why we are doing sadhana, to cultivate love. But that verse, I don't understand, because you asked about this other fear. You asked about fear.
I just, yes.
That you heard that it's sadhana can be practiced out of fear.
Yes, and then when I say actually we should practice with the understanding that no one actually means to cultivate love, not to have constantly this idea and I could feel practicing because
Yeah.
and I was thinking how to switch.
Okay. Yeah, because he's your merciful spiritual master. He wants to bring you to the next level, no? And fear is, when I hear it, no, we can understand. Oh, I'm very fearful running around in the temple, but it's not so often so gross. It's a very subtle thing that I'm suffering outside, and I hear that I'm a spirit soul and I'm supposed to serve the Lord, and due to that I start to serve. And it's not really that I have any idea what it means to have a relationship with the Lord, but I know what it means to suffer in this world. And because I somehow accept that I'm a spirit soul, part and parcel of the Lord, that's why I start to practice. But it's not really, it's more of running away from the material world than running towards Krishna. And sadhana then by the practice, it will slowly bring us up to the platform where we actually have attraction to the Lord. And there's these different stages, no, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. So how to make the transformation in how can you have attraction for Krishna? By knowing him. So we need to, initially we don't know anything about Krishna, but by sadhana we slowly get to know him, and by hearing about him from the pure devotee, then we see him, we hear about him, then we get some understanding who he is, and we become attracted by his beauty and all his opulences. And then if we cultivate that hearing about Krishna more and more and more, then it can switch from being just unconsciously practicing, fearfully practicing, to actually I want to come closer to the Lord. I don't know if that makes sense, but the sadhana. And initially, we have to also just come to Bhagavatam class and then read. And we don't want to because we don't have a taste. We don't have attraction. But by doing it, it will come. And Rupa Goswami says, like, if you have jaundice, if you have to cure it slowly, and then the taste will come again. And I heard something about Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, his seminar, he was making one point that it's not a sprint, but it's a marathon, something like this. It's a long term and not short term. So in this way, we shouldn't be impatient that let me quickly do something so I can. No, but by steadily doing every day the program, getting up early, chanting, hearing, then that will come. And if, just as a last point, the experience we have is often in the morning when we wake up, our mind is somewhere completely else. But if we do the whole morning program properly, we all have this experience how we feel at 8:30. Often we have some feeling for the Lord. We have some, and that's very practical. If we just follow it, then even on a daily basis we can experience that desire to come closer to Him. And if we do it on a daily basis, that will even become more and more intense. So much so that hopefully when we wake up in the morning, it's not that I'm completely forgetful of everyone and everything, and especially Krishna, but maybe we wake up, wow, I have a chance now to go and see the Lord, sing for the Lord, dance for the Lord, serve the Lord. And that's what we're trying to do here. And that's why I also wanted to mention about Ekadashi. We have to follow that process properly. Otherwise, after 40 years of practice, we might end up still struggling with our anarthas, not having any taste. But it's guaranteed if we do that, we will have love for Krishna at some point. Just since you asked, do you have this experience, no? When you do the morning program properly, then even in a few hours it can create something in your heart, some feeling, some...
Especially if it's consistent, not just nervous.
And, sorry, last point. There is 5 things which can... I was studying Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and it's nice now when we study we can gain a more deeper understanding. So we try to attain bhava through sadhana. And Rupa Goswami, he says there's 5 very important items in sadhana bhakti, the Panchanga bhakti. And personally I find it often helpful to read also the Sanskrit, because you see what is the connection between why we do sadhana. So he's mentioning why is this Panchanga Bhakti so powerful. What is this Panchanga?
To associate with devotees,
Yes.
giving the holy name,
Yes.
to hear,
Yes. What here?
Bhagavatam,
Uh-huh.
Shavana, Kirtan,
Chant the holy name and worship the deity.
worship the deity.
How many of those did we do this morning? All of them, no? We are in the association of devotees. We heard Bhagavatam. We worship the deities. Even those of you who didn't come on the altar and dress, you worship deities because you came. We chanted the holy names, and we are in a holy place. Of course, this needs some little bit more advanced consciousness to understand how this is Puri, and Gaur-Nitai is here, Jagannath is here. And so the point is, Rupa Goswami says these 5, even one who has no qualification whatsoever, it can immediately produce bhav in a person's heart. It can immediately give a loving feeling in a person's heart. Without any, just out of, because it's such a powerful anga, it can just give it to you. A person can walk into this room and chant the holy name, doesn't know anything, and can have an overwhelming experience. Or somebody can see the deity and just feel, who is this? And that's why what did Prabhupada do? He's helping us to develop that love, engaging us in these primary angas. So we should do that. Hare Krishna. Sorry, I went a little longer, but have a nice day. Ekadashi Brata ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. it's not really meant that you practice by yourself and like you do, and then all of a sudden you feel it means you can, that's where you can start off and still you have to go through the stages of and Prabhupada says yes, by the sound of yes, things and use the example of Prabhupada. It's not that by the sound of the king of Prabhupada and I do this, which is why it's only Prabhupada. Prabhupada says that in the devotion. At some point you really like it. Realization. And then you practice it actually. It doesn't really say it distinctly with words, but you can understand the context. And he's saying that the right sound of and even though externally you do the same, it's like this. Then you can read power. So that was his answer. His right sound of Bhakti will read at the same time. You read the way. That's what Bhakti said. We are all curious because we focus to see the pure devotion, even though we are not really there. Focus on Prabhupada is that it's just another state that it's really meaning if you follow, let's say you're a person completely fearful, just running away from the team. But you have a person, you just follow the order. And you don't even have to, as secretary, this is okay. This will actually be pure. No, I don't have to be straight just be purified. But of course it's a very dangerous position. It's somebody who doesn't feel the bhakti, then at some point when they will start having work, so it's the bhakti. verse that really inspires me is from Shushushtor Shabadasya Vasudeva Bhavachi. Mystically within you don't taste. If that's the way to do it. Yes. Because if Krishna sees yours now, his circle, you have to release because that's the system. And we should preach the Lord because nowadays it becomes such a some